Hi everyone, Boba here. The latest Pokemon game that's currently out is Pokemon Arceus, and I'd like to talk about it. Just be aware that there are spoilers, so if you haven't played, I'm going to have a section letting you know where to skip. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe. My goal is 100 subscribers, and I would love for you to be part of that crew. I'll be putting up more content once a week. Now let's grab our tea and begin. Just to start, I have to say this is probably the best Pokemon game by far in terms of gameplay in my opinion. I know some other Pokemon games have similar features, but I personally haven't been able to get interested in them. And I'm specifically talking about Sword and Shield. I know that's probably a very unpopular opinion, but that's just my personal take because this game has my 3 favorite features and blends them together so well. Stealth, open world, and a compulsive need to catch everything. To me, Pokemon Arceus takes the open world concept like in Breath of the Wild and pairs it with a more realistic feel of how someone might have actually dealt with Pokemon. By beating them in the back of the head when they're not looking or absolutely running away at top speeds when you don't want to fight. I enjoy how even in the first area you can complete Pokédex entries and increase your chances of finding a wild shiny of that specific Pokemon. It's also pretty funny that you can gather these shinies and shiny alphas and give them to some of the people in the town. That's actively been one of my goals in private playthroughs I'm doing. I will say that shiny hunting in this game is not as hard or as special as in the other games. But I also don't care since I can't transfer these Pokemon to the other games anyway. Now, it's not as large scale of an open world as I would like, and I do wish that you could find shinies of the legendaries if you restart enough times. Though, those would really be my only 2 major gripes about game mechanics. Otherwise, the gameplay from what I've experienced is solid. Sure, there are things like clipping grass when the camera angle is weird or the occasional foot tapping when you're on a ledge. But nothing where it's immersion breaking, like falling through the map or Pokemon randomly falling out of the sky. Yes, I am looking at you, Skyrim, in all of your buggy glory. No, instead it's just some giggle-worthy moments at worst. I think the only feature that was disappointing is that you can't go back and rebattle at least one of the 4 main legendaries, specifically Arceus. He had the most intense interactive battle, and it's one that I would have loved to do over and over again. And the trials where you face legendaries in a Pokemon battle, that's not all that interesting to me since I didn't pick up this game for traditional Pokemon battles, but it does help the game feel classic for all the classic fans. You'll definitely feel this when you battle Garantina. If you don't want to know the plot for Pokemon Legends of Arceus, please skip to the time on the screen. I'm specifically going to do the review of the plot and rant about some plot holes that I've found. Since you haven't skipped, I'm going to assume that you want to hear about this. The storyline is surprisingly interesting. It's not your standard go to these gyms, beat them up, fight the team causing mischief, save the day, beat up the Elite Four, and now you're done. No, instead you're actually a part of Team Galactic and you're settling in a new region. First of all, that is an awesome throwback to Team Galactic from the original Pokemon Pearl and Diamond games. Second, I love how we're not instantly trusted. If anything, this is the most legitimate conflict these people could have. These people fled their homeland because of the dangerous wild Pokemon that attacked them. So coming to this new land, they're not sure what to expect, who they can trust, they're not confident they can ward off these Pokemon, and they don't know how to use Pokeballs yet because they were just created by the professor. So then this random kid in weird clothes shows up by somehow managing to fall out of the sky with this random magical phone. And they're not supposed to be a little worried? I don't know, that doesn't seem very realistic to not be worried. I'd be terrified. I even think the Time and Space Clan have their own good reasons to be nervous too. They're wary to get rid of this shining light that struck their guardian Pokemon from the sky, which is where they believe Arceus is, or as they call him, the almighty Sinnoh. I can see why they would be hesitant about soothing those enraged guardian Pokemon. They just don't understand if it's from Arceus or not, and it's never really made clear either. This sets up a good basis for the story. It's just not been told before. It's one about trials and worries of people's survival. I mean, it's a Pokemon game, so it's not like we actually have to worry about someone dying, but I think it's funny how it makes you step back and think, Oh crap, if I don't catch these 3 simple Pokemon, my character might not have a safe place to stay. And despite there being a linear story, it seems to be handled pretty well, where you can at least see the progress of the town getting bigger and the shops expanding. It makes you feel like you've accomplished something outside of just catching another Pokemon to shove in a box somewhere. The crowning achievement of the story was the plot twist, where because you were following the orders given to you by the commander, the instant that things go wrong, his inner fear of reliving the potential loss of his home causes him to throw you out, despite the words of the clans who have seen that you've been genuinely helping. The way you are kicked out and can no longer enter the town, talk to Celine to raise your rank, and the save card that you've had through the entire time you've been at the town has now been ripped away from you. You are isolated and feel alone, alienated aside from the few who still believe in you and new friends who can help you out. From there, they switch the way the story handles the red chain and how it actually fails. I think it was a nice touch to explain how the first Master Ball was created. Now, I've been avoiding 2 problems I have with the story. They're not major, but I can't help having them. First, why did Inko get trapped in the past? It says he fell out of the sky too. For anyone who doesn't know, Ingo is the twin to Nabori in Pokemon Black and White. They're the train conductors on the battle train. What's his purpose for Arceus throwing him back in the past? And what about his poor twin? I have to imagine he's been going crazy. Second, where did the sudden plot twist for Volo come from? I know he's been quite close to our character for a while, and he's fascinated with the plates. And that he doesn't call Arceus Almighty Sinnoh. But I've never got the sense that he might have been anything more than a merchant. If anything, he felt like our closest ally. Now he's suddenly a raging Arceus fanatic? That's a bit weird. How is it possible that Garantina would make a deal with him? Did Volo seance Garantina out of the Mirror Realm? Did Garantina find Volo and say, "Sup dude, I'll help you find Arceus if you'll let me beat him up"? Volo says he wants to see Arceus, so he picks the one legendary that has a raging hatred for him? I got a problem with that logic there. Or maybe it's Volo hates our character so much for being chosen by Arceus that he brings Garatina here to kick our butts? Needless to say, there are a lot of questions, and I really think they need to be addressed somehow. I think a DLC would really help round out the story. Overall, I love Legends of Arceus. I would totally recommend it, since it's one of the games where you actually have a chance to more realistically collect all the Pokemon without cheats. Frankly, I'm all for that, and I am a giant fan of Arceus since he first appeared in the movies. It's probably been the best money I've spent on the Switch by far. If you have any comments, please leave them down below. I'd love to hear your take on these things. And if you have any suggestions for something to talk about, I'd love to hear it and maybe we'll expand on it later. As for me, that's all I've got. I'll see you in the next video.